Adventurers assemble. In the universe of Earth's sister planet Aston, inhabited by the most dangerous creatures, a group of deportees are about to challenge the very foundations of their prison. Are you ready to join the rebellion and fight alongside werewolves, demons and vampires? Let's embark on the journey of uprising and see where this interstellar journey will take us. This is the fourth part of Chains of Prophecy, Aston Uprising. Thank you very much for your likes and subscriptions. You can leave your comments in the comment area. 𝐊𝐢𝐧𝐼. He tucked me in bed with all the warmth of a wet fish, and as I heard his retreating footsteps and the quiet click of the door shutting, I couldn't help but let the tears free fall down my face at an increasingly alarming rate. As much as I didn't want to go down this road, it was pretty much predestined that my heart would override my brain as silent sobs racked my body. I didn't want this. And not for the first time did I wonder why me. Why did all of this happen to me for? Who wants a goddamn prophecy and all these stupid dreams? Who wants to be nearly killed by some invisible force on a daily basis? Who wants to let down all the people they've ever known at the time they've needed it most? If that wasn't going to make you feel like a bag of feces, then I don't know what would. I'm not sure when I fell asleep, but what made me realize that I was the sudden change in tempo. How one moment I was wallowing in self-pity, and the next I was somewhere else entirely, unaware of the troubles I had left behind. I saw the couple from my previous dream. They were having an argument, a really emotional one. The lady was crying and storming off. I didn't hear any of the words. The look on the man's face said enough. Pure and utter heartbreak. The scene shifts. I'm not entirely sure what I'm looking at anymore. Everything became blurry, as if I had been crying. Pain blossomed in my heart, the heart-wrenching kind of pain. The pain that came from the loss of someone. I had no cause to feel the pain, but I did anyway, and man did it hurt. It only dawned on me that I was feeling someone else's emotions, and when another person came to talk to me, I couldn't see who it was or what they were saying, but whatever they said made the pain amplify, to the extent that I could feel it coursing through my veins, hurting every part of my body. The scene shifts again, and I see myself in the red grass again, lying down just watching it all around me, as if I was in a bubble and was seeing the world from the outside. All too soon I was back on 𝐊𝐢𝐧𝐼, my dreams having left their mark on me in the form of a pounding headache. Remembering the events before falling asleep did nothing to help either. Consciousness was not something I wanted right now, or at all. For once, dreams seemed like the better choice. An escape instead of a punishment, even if they are incredibly confusing. As with all things that you wanted, you never got them when you wanted them. I dug my pounding head deeper into the pillow, hoping that somehow either the headache will go away or that the pillow would consume me. Neither happened. I groaned at the prospect of having to get up and face Jack again. I wonder what he said to the others. Wouldn't that be a wonderful conversation to have? Hey Anna, have you found anything out yet? I heard you went to Vlad's private library. Yeah. Well, here's the thing, I would have done only. My body decided to fail me, so I couldn't even pick myself off the floor, so very little. Hell, I could barely master the art of walking again. That was so not happening. Like I didn't feel humiliated enough. With a groan, I get out of bed feeling a lot like The Walking Dead. Stumbling over to the bathroom, I fumble out of my clothes and step into the shower. Life was such a chore sometimes. Today was the perfect example. I didn't want to do today at all. It would be so convenient if I could skip today and not wake up with everything having been done for me. All my problems been sorted out. If that were possible, nothing would ever get done. Life would have no relevance, no lessons to teach. We would never learn, never grow, never face our fears or make mistakes. Actually, that's what I needed to do now. I need to face my fears head on. Use this experience to help me change for the better. Yeah. If only it was as easy as I make out in my head. If only life was that simple. Nonetheless, I came out of the shower more than determined to face my fears and talk to Jack, which was where the damage control came in. I need to convince him that I could do this, that it wasn't a risk to my health, which again would be easier said than done. Pulling my hair into a messy bun, I step out of my room and instantly want to get back in again. The hall is totally and utterly deserted. Were they having a meeting without me? There was only one way to find out, which was to find Jack. My feet take me on autopilot to his room. As much as I want to do this, I don't. Taking a deep breath, I pushed the door open of his room, tentatively stepping inside. It's only Jack, and when have you ever been scared of him? I'm glad it's dark that way I can't see the disappointment etched on his face. His eyes full of pity, that was if he was even there at all. In some aspects I didn't want to see him, just to save myself, but I know that it was inevitable really. Are you going to come in? His voice scares me out of my self-pity party. Jack, I begin to say, just as his arms snake around my waist, serving the dual purpose of both scaring the life out of me as well as making me forget what I was about to say, which truth be told I had no idea anyway. I turn around and lean into him, all my stress fizzling away as I nuzzled into his shoulder. He picked me up and led us to the bed. I didn't untangle myself from his embrace once we were lying down. I didn't want to. It just felt so good to not think about everything or anything at all for that matter. We need to talk, he mumbled into my hair. We do. I concur, then proceed to stay silent regardless. He chuckles at my lack of elaboration, then nudges me in encouragement. I don't know what to say. I don't know what's going on with this prophecy stuff in the slightest. I don't feel like I'm getting anywhere with it. I just keep getting stonewalled in the form of some weird and sudden illness. I think I should stop for a while and see if my dreams tell me something a little less obscure. Not sure what I could do to help, but I'll do whatever needs to be done. I'm glad you said that. It makes not so that I don't have to have a tough conversation with you about stopping you search. Enough of that. I love being with you mainly because you help take my mind off my responsibilities and make me think of the future. Tell me, how are you feeling? Good. A lot better. I thought you would have a meeting without me. He squeezes me. I would never hold one without you. I place a quick kiss on his forehead in appreciation. We can talk about my new responsibilities tomorrow. He hums in approval and squishes me ever closer to him, and in seconds he's asleep. Oh, how I envy him and all others who magically fall asleep mere seconds after getting in bed. There was no chance of me getting to sleep as I had only woken up a little while ago. Nonetheless, as I lay there listening to Jack's even breathing, I found myself being pulled toward the realm of the unconscious. I watched Jack as he slept. As creepy as it sounded, I found peace in that he was at peace, that everything would be okay, no matter how hard the journey. I didn't even realize that I had fallen asleep. It was only when I found myself in a wide field did I know I was elsewhere. In the distance I saw a tree. It was the kind of tree that you knew has seen history unveil and has survived. So majestic it looked like the perfect tree to sit under on a sunny day. There was no weather today. The sky was green. A different shade, not quite dark like olive green and not quite mint green, a mixture. It was neither cold or hot here, oddly. I felt a pull to the tree and find my feet making their way there of their own accord. The tranquility of this place was unreal. I was practically basking in it, and after the stress of my everyday life I deserved to. If my feet hadn't set off on their own, I would have had to have a lie down just to enjoy it to the full. A stupid grin had begun to form on my face. I'm happy, and I have no idea why the happiness is bubbling in my stomach and making me grin like a maniac. Like when they say there's butterflies in your stomach when you get nervous. That only the happy version. It was something about this place, wherever I was, that made me feel so carefree. I was relishing it while it lasted, never wanting it to end. As the landscape was all the same here, I couldn't tell how much closer I was to the tree. It felt like I was no closer to it than when I had got here. I continued walking for what seemed like ages, and the tree still seemed no closer. How much longer would I have to keep walking? This was beginning to get frustrating. I took my eyes off the tree just to check if I was actually walking there or not, and it wasn't a figment of my imagination. More ludicrous things have happened to me of late. So me thinking I'm walking somewhere when I actually wasn't would be kind of normal for me, and my dreams were usually of the tormenting kind, and walking towards a destination I would never reach seems like the kind of dream I would attract. Because they are that frustrating. I hope this didn't end in pain. Or with a fake family trying to kill me. I've already had such dreams, thank you very much. I looked up again only to see I was right beside the tree. While this was strange nut, I'm not going to complain. That was way faster than expected, especially at the pace I was walking at before. I found myself under the tree's amazing foliage in seconds, unsure of how I got here, but pleased nonetheless. I saw an old man standing in the edge of the shade, his back facing me, robes flowing from an unknown source of wind. Unsure of what to do, I walked toward him hesitantly, not wanting to disturb his meditation. As soon as I was directly under the tree, He turned to face me as if sensing I was there. He smiled warmly as if greeting an old friend and shuffled closer to me. "I am pleased that you made it. Many don't. Especially not on their first visit. It is good to be focused, my child, but often it is not always the path that you want to take that will get you to your destination." I have no idea what he was talking about, but I nodded anyway. "The journey is longer than you anticipate. Far more intricate than you imagine. But you must persevere. The rewards will be great. Have faith in yourself and face your challenges head on." I'm not sure when I left that old man or what his message was supposed to mean, but I had never felt more at peace in my life. When I awoke again, Jack was still fast asleep beside me, as if it had been mere moments I had slept for. I'm not even sure I had fallen asleep, but how did I have that dream? But it was real. It did happen, dream or otherwise. As I was left with complete tranquility and peace of mind, real life was catching up to me pretty fast now, as I could feel the beginnings of a headache coming on. Jack blissfully sleeping away was not helping either. One of my pet peeves was simply not being able to fall asleep, which was amplified when you had someone sleeping next to you or in the same room. The old man came back to me despite not wanting to think about it. I could only assume he meant the journey or leaving the prison, and then whatever came after that. Was I doing the right thing by not pursuing the prophecy? I would just have to presume so for now, and as for my journey after leaving this place, we'll just have to see where it takes me. Whatever that road looks like, I'll just have to cross it when I get there. TR17. The first thing that Jack did the next day was call a meeting. We needed to know exactly what position we were in. There was very little time left to our deadline and an unmeasurable amount of work left to do. This meeting was going to be the catalyst to make us all work harder. I could tell Jack was gearing up for it, as he was silent most of the day, musing. Due to time constraints, the meeting was held in the late afternoon in a meadow in the tree folks' wing. For me, the meeting couldn't come soon enough. The need to be productive itching inside me, making antsy. But now that it was about to begin, I was nervous. What if we couldn't get everything done in time? What if we had to leave people behind? In all honesty, I didn't even want to think about it, and thankfully I didn't have to, as Jack had stood in the center as soon as everyone had entered. "Thank you for coming at such short notice, everyone. I know everyone's been working very hard lately, and we're here today to discuss progress. There are only 5 days left, and we need to know exactly what needs to be done and do it. We need to work extra hard, and hopefully our efforts will pay off. I have full faith in it. 𝐿𝐤𝐳 first. Well, studying the force fields, we found a few weak points where, with enough pressure and gradual breakdown, we can use them as exit routes. The 3 shuttles will have to take different routes, and 2 will have significantly longer journeys. What will you need to make this gradual breakdown faster?" Jax asked. "I think that's where we come in," Warren states, standing up. "The barrier's been weakening for a while now, and we've noticed an increase of magic when it has come in from the pressure points mentioned. We can use our magic to help weaken them further in a manner that won't be a cause for suspicion and won't take that long either." "Sounds good. Anything else, Damon?" "Yes and no. Things haven't changed on the shuttle front. It seems like they are still planning on taking less of us. We haven't found anything suggesting who will be left and who will be taken or what the criteria is. We've also been seeing an increase in the number of shuttles arriving from Earth with nothing in them. Or maybe they get empty before we see them. Not sure, but the guards are up to something." "I agree." Vlad nods, starting to stand. "The guards have been very active at night lately. Too active. But just as Damon states, we can only follow them up to a certain point, and then they just disappear. Out of our view. We did come up with the theory that maybe we lost them because they were human and they were using something so that anything supernatural wouldn't be able to see. Since usually, we're the ones with the better eyesight. Anna, would you be okay to join us on night watch today?" "Sure." I say, probably all too fast, but I finally have a role now. One that hopefully won't lead to me getting paralyzed or knocked out or in some weird dream with characters who want me to die. I glance quickly at him, only to see him running his hand through his hair. It's more than obvious from his stiffened posture and locked jaw that he was not liking this idea at all. And yet, despite his lack of delight at this, he gave a quick nod in consent. Even he couldn't deny the potential advantage we would have if this yielded fruit. Next up was Thad, who stated that he was nearly close to securing all the provisions that we would need for the journey, as well as the basic medical supplies. The meeting ended after Jack gave a few words of encouragement, But while it did seem like things were working out, I had a niggling feeling that we were missing something blatantly obvious. However, that was a feeling easily ignored, especially as now I had a task that would enable me to be more actively involved. Before leaving, I arranged to meet Vlad in his lounge at 7 so I could familiarize myself with the guards and learn about the mysterious goings-on in the night time. I was positively buzzing nightfall here I come, but first, I had to talk to Jack about it all, and while there would be no protest on his part, I would still have to listen to the be careful lecture. Don't take any risks blah blah blah, typical Jack. We walked back to my room in silence and I flopped onto the bed wondering what we're missing. It was bugging me to the extent that my head was beginning to hurt. Moments later Jack joins me on the bed, almost squishing me if I hadn't moved. We lay there in silence for a while, lost in out thoughts, or rather me trying to suppress the urge to bang my head into a wall. Jack, what are we missing? I say in an attempt to figure this out. Nothing. You have look out for yourself tonight, okay? Yeah. Sure, promise me, he all but growls. Jack, okay fine. I promise. We lay together in silence after that. I was trying not to think about what may be missing, and Jack was probably imagining all the things that could go wrong tonight. I must have drifted off as the next thing I know I'm being shaken awake by Jack. It must be time to go slowly. I sit up and gather my bearings. We stop by at the kitchen to grab some food after my stomach makes an annoyingly loud growl of protest at leaving the building empty. I guess I hadn't realized how hungry I am, as even though the food was piping hot I still found myself scarfing it down. I am not at all surprised to see that Jack was coming with me to this meeting, and would most likely spend the night and wait for me too. Overprotective and Worrywart were his two middle names for a reason. We were led into Vlad's lounge by someone who looked like she could break me in half just by looking at me. Everyone else in the room looked the exact same. Fierce. At this point it both comforted me and scared me, as well as making me glad that I was on the same side. Now, I know that these past few nights have been more than a little strange, but Anna is here to help us with that. We do the exact same as we've been doing, but tonight I want Anna to shadow Clark and Mick as they take the route that the guards will cross. If anything happens, call for backup immediately. If Anna gets into wherever the guards go, wait there until she comes back. We'll have the Fae with us tonight, so backup will arrive a lot sooner. We need everyone to keep their ears peeled so we can all be on the same page. Any questions? Nobody had questions. This was it. Crunch time. Two bulky vampires make their way over to me, giving me small smiles and introducing themselves. Time really does seem to be flying today, as we're only a few minutes away from lights out. Then half an hour later we begin patrol. At the moment, I'm trying my best to listen to Clark's outline of our route through the prison. He also gave brief vantage points of where everyone else would be, but ours was the most farthest out. On all the outskirts, maybe that was it. Something external was controlling the guards and could only reach the guards if they came to the outskirts of the prison. Or maybe the guards were planning something themselves and needed the outskirts for the utmost secrecy. A few moments before we were about to go, Mick told me that there was only one thing to do in case of emergency. Scream. I nodded in compliance, anxiously awaiting our turn to leave. And then all of a sudden it was our time. We walked across the prison like shadows clinging onto the walls. The prison was completely silent. I have never seen it like this before. Astounding, really. Everything was dark. I have heard of the moon and know that it orbits the earth and so is a source of light on earth. I can tell that here there is no source of light. Maybe the guards use flashlights, or maybe they use their memories just like we are doing. Our route is the longest as it is the most farthest. I'm sandwiched between Clark and Mick, who have devised a tapping system to help me gather my bearings a little. Mick lightly taps my shoulder each time we've passed a wing, just so that I know how far out we're going. I felt it as soon as we passed the third wing. We had one more wing after this, and then we would be skirting around the edges of the prison walls and going back to the vampire wing from the other side. I felt a chill run through my bones, my hair standing up on its ends. Once we had reached the end of the fourth wing, we waited. It was here that the guards were spotted walking into nothingness. Well, this was the first vantage point, if not here then slightly further along, until we did see the guards. It didn't take as long as I had anticipated to find them. It started with a few light footsteps until we heard them mumbling about something. We stayed behind them, with me in the lead, as then I would be able to follow them easily as the guards crept slowly forward. So did we. The mumbling was getting louder, but I still couldn't make out what they were saying. As much as I wanted to ask Clark and Mick if they were hearing this too, I was equally as scared of losing them. I kept my gaze ahead transfixed. The mumbling got louder still, barely audible from where we were standing. I inched forward carefully, trying to listen to what they're saying. No luck. Whatever they were saying sounded like an incantation, the intensity of which was getting stronger, the words faster. Whatever was about to happen soon. That much I could deduce, and then it happened. In the blink of an eye, so fast and ordinary you could miss it. A portal appeared out of the plain wall, all of a sudden sucking all of the guards away. I too felt the pull and responded in kind, even though I'm not sure how exactly. It seemed like all I had to do was be open to the idea of going with the guards, as the next minute I find myself being pulled towards them. More of an inner pull than anything. A bit like when I would dream and feel myself drift somewhere. I was more than a bit apprehensive at this point, unsure of where this mysterious force would take me, but I went with it nonetheless. I felt the pull, still seeing nothing but darkness, following blindly. Even when we stopped moving, it was still dark, and then I could see a faint light. The scuffle of feet were the only sounds heard thus far, with the light emanating like the soft glow of a candle. I look around at my surroundings, trying to gauge where the hell I was, and if things got a little hairy, how the hell I would escape. I saw nothing of importance anywhere. Everything was a dull gray color, which I could only tell due to the faint light. I heard more scuffling and decided to follow behind them. It was beyond weird. I couldn't see the guards, but I heard them instead, and then I heard the mumbling again. The same as it was before we entered here. As the mumbling of the incantation grew louder, the light grew brighter. Suddenly the guards came to a stop and gathered around something. A table of some sort. I didn't know how we got there or how I was apparently there with them, but it happened. The chanting stopped while I found myself conveniently hidden behind a pillar. Very little consolation, as the pillar seemed translucent, flickering, as if it was a figment of my imagination, and would lose its opaqueness any second now. I felt the presence of something huge loom behind me, wondering what the hell I had got myself into. Chapter 18. I heard a deep rumble coming from behind, and it took all my willpower to just stay where I was. For some reason I was beyond freaked. All of a sudden scared that this was all going to turn out badly. And if I was going to be brutally honest with myself, the likelihood of things going wrong in my current scenario are very, very high. After all, I didn't really know where I was, let alone how I got here or what my escape route would be. That's funny, as I didn't even know if I was physically here or not, or if anything here wasn't just a figment of my imagination. Although, as I heard that rumble, it was to think that I was imagining things. Even though I didn't understand it, didn't mean it wasn't happening. The chanting started again. Not more mumbling this time. It was loud and proud, but shorter than before. This language was definitely nothing that I recognized. And I had heard the vampires speak Latin and the tree folk speak two different types of Elvish. But this was completely different. The chanting stopped and I was abruptly pulled out of my thoughts. This was the main event now, I could tell. The atmosphere of wherever we are had changed totally. It was cold now, a chill running up my spine. The silence was almost deafening. I could hear my heart beating wildly in my chest. It was stretching on for so long now that I was almost convinced that the guards too could hear my heartbeat too. I rather hoped that assumption was just my overactive imagination. Soon will be the time that you need to act. Have you prepared? A voice boomed, scaring me half to death. Master, the ships have been prepared. The bombs have been created. Everything is according to plan. We will leave soon and the children shall be forgotten. Everything will be as you say. One of the guards replied in a monotonous tone. Robotic almost. This was crazy. Who was this master they were referring to? Questions buzzed around my head faster than I could think of plausible explanations. I shall grant you part of your price now, Noel. Come forth, you wish for eternal life. Join your lived ones in a garden forevermore. I saw a flash of bright light, then heard a smattering of applause which grew so loud that it felt as if the whole of this world was shaking. Run, a voice whispered to me, and now, the final matter to settle tonight. The voice from behind me boomed, run. The voice whispered again with increased urgency. Tonight amongst us we have a visitor. That was my wake-up call. All right. I jolted up onto my feet instantly, attempting to imagine ways of getting out of here. when I knew that realistically, I had no idea where I was. Never mind getting out of here. I ran blindly forward. Anything that was away was good enough for me right now. That is until I reached the inevitable dead end. Which way should I turn now? I had mere moments. I didn't know if the guard's master had sent someone them after me or not, and frankly, I didn't want to stick around to find out either. Glancing frantically between each of the voids of darkness, the question left or right plagues me. I see a flash of light come from the left side. Is that supposed to mean it's safe? Or is that really a minefield? I hear the rumble of heavy footfalls from behind me. Time had run out. I dive into the right tunnel, thinking that, well, being blown up is not on my list of ways to escape. Or die. Good choice, the voice whispered. Well, that's a relief, but where the hell were you before? I don't have the time to dwell on this selective help as I feel the earth beneath me sinking, like I'm wading through quicksand. I keep moving relentlessly forward despite feeling myself being slowly sucked underground. Nope, this too was not on my ways to die list. Actually, come to think of it, dying itself wasn't on the agenda tonight. Too bad. Quicksand after what seems like an age. I am rammed into something flat and hard. A ledge of some sort perhaps. Wasting no time, I hoist myself up onto it, and the sticky earth residue that had coated my legs and feet helping to drag me down just disappeared as if never existing in the first place. Keep your mind clear, the voice instructed as I was getting up. Immediately, I thought of an ocean crashing waves onto a beach. Well, what I imagined to be an ocean and a beach, not like I had seen one in real life or anything. I kept this image in my mind on replay whilst I walked through this seemingly safe part of the tunnel. Soon I will be free, will you? A sinister voice asked. The voice gave me chills down my spine. It sounded evil. I know now why I was advised to not think. And I'm doing it again, damn it. Ocean beach waves. Calm, keep walking. Ocean beach waves, breathe. Keep walking. Ocean beach waves, stay calm. Keep walking. Nearly there, you have to be careful. Cover your face, protect yourself in 1-2 duck. The good voice guided me. I was caught completely off guard despite the forewarning, as vines reached out for me, slashing me across my skin with their knife-like thorns. I felt as if I was being ambushed by deadly, kill-happy foliage that grew increasingly large and was surrounding me from every front. I walked blindly, my arms crossed in front of my face, protecting my face from the onslaught. My eyes squeezed shut, a precaution. The further I walked, the more vegetation seemed to be suffocating me until I was shuffling, no, waddling through it. I was being slashed so deep and so consistently. My jeans were nothing but threads at this point, and as for the rest of my clothes, I doubt there was much use of them anymore. The struggle to walk against this damned trees was getting so hard I was barely moving, and then the fated happened. I tripped on a root. I felt a sharp burst of pain. In my back, my skull, everywhere now. I may not have planned to get sucked into the earth, or given into the foliage frenzy before, but it looked like I was about to soon. I fell with a thump, which would leave a nasty bruise later. If I had a later. My vision, though it was black before, turned white. The blinding white. Is this what happens before you die? The books I've read previously tell me that yes. You see the light, Anna, I don't have much time. I'm fading. The same voice that was helping me whispers to me. I snap myself out of my thoughts. This is bigger than me. Listen, you're safe now. I'm Noelle. We were all brainwashed into serving this master. We don't know who he is or where he came from, but he wants you. He wanted us to stop you from getting away. We hid the ships, they've been sabotaged. You'll need to look carefully. You don't have long. He's using our life force to survive. 𝐻𝐻𝐿 has been corrupted, it's not safe. Leave immediately. I wake up more than startled. Noelle's words far away. I feel myself moving, but I'm not actually moving. Jostled, that's the word, I'm being jostled. And sure enough, I hear the authoritative commands of Clark. Yes, we have her, we're making our way back. Damon's here, we'll need a medic. My eyes flicker open, unseeing. My body registering my throbbing head. My arm burning. Anna, everything's going to be okay. We're going to get you some help, Layla says reassuringly, while weaving my limp hand through hers and squeezing. I try to concentrate on her words, as she continues to reassure me but can't. I feel myself being pulled into the abyss of unconsciousness and welcome the relief from the pain. But as ever I go from one torment into the other, my sleep ever plagued with dreams, I'm being pulled. feeling it with an intensity that almost convinces me that I was being physically pulled. I was standing in a field of ash, or so I thought. I knelt to pick some up, only to find that this was nothing like I had felt before. It was coarse and thick, like rocks bigger than the palm of my hand, but somehow strangely malleable. I attempted to crack one open, just to see if I can, and I did. A gooey black substance oozed out. Where is this place, and what was I doing here? You have done well, a woman's voice tells me. Where she speaks from I don't know, and now you have a choice. This is the place where everyone who has a choice come. This is where they decide. You are the first person to inspect the ground. I felt slightly chastised, but made sure I didn't show it. It wouldn't do any favors for me to show her that she had embarrassed me, and anyway it showed that I was the most inquisitive. Why do the rocks look like ash but actually be rocks? And why the oozing black stuff? What's my choice? I ask, feeling suddenly brash. The woman laughs heartily. You're my favorite by far, and I have been doing this ever since I can remember. In all my time nobody has asked me that before. Your choice, my dear Anna, is this: either you wake up and continue to live your life as you are, as you can continue to do so until your days end, or you can be granted the one thing that you've always wanted in life, a family. Right, you can have your own family, live with them until the rest of your days. My heart stopped beating. I wasn't even sure I was breathing anymore. This was an impossible choice. My life was most definitely not perfect, especially with the dreams and everything crazy with the prophecy. But wasn't it how everything was supposed to happen? What would happen to Aston, our escape to Jack? But a family, damn. My heart ached at what I could have. Tears pooled in my eyes involuntarily. A mum, a dad, a brother, a sister, people who were mine, of whom I was theirs. Hugs, comfort, unconditional love and trust. Finally the hole in my soul would be healed. No more void. That would be nice. To come home to a family. To have a home with a family. More tears falling down my cheeks like rain. Out of my control. Why, I ask, my voice shaky. Why give me this impossible choice? I am aware more than ever right now of that void, of how I could fill it so easily. It is what happens here, my dear, she replies softly. But why me? You're one of the special ones. Very few people get this chance to live a dream, right? So let's say hypothetically, I take this choice. What happens to my current life? The prophecy and Aston and everything else, nothing. They continue without you. Life goes on, albeit your companions will grieve you. You will be dead to them. Then how is that possible? The tears have dried up now, the clogs in my mind turning. How is it possible to live with a family when I'm dead? You shall be transported to a special realm, where you will have everything you wish for. This sounded too good to be true, and something was most assuredly off about this chance. I'm so torn. As much as I'd like this opportunity to have something that I've finally wanted, I didn't want to leave everyone I cared about behind. Sure, we weren't family by blood, but they had been there for me ever since I could remember. Through thick and thin, ugly and pretty, everything. Leaving them now would be like leaving them behind when they need me most. Totally not an ego boost or anything, just that if I am integral for this prophecy, it'll reveal itself to me when it's supposed to, or I'll understand it when I'm supposed to. How are they going to survive without it? They had become my family away from my family. It would be great if I could get to Earth and learn about my family, but for now and for the rest of my time, these guys would be more than enough. Coming home to them would be enough. I feel alone sometimes, sure. I'm not the same species as these guys, but they would have my back in an instant if need be, and abandoning them is nowhere near what they deserve. I've made my choice, I state, knowing that while she could see and hear me, I couldn't see her. Yes, I don't want to accept your offer. I heard a shrill shriek, and then my world toppled. TR19. 1 minute I was standing, the other I was flying through the air, and the next I was crashing into the rock floor. Because more pain was exactly what I needed right now. This better not affect me when I wake up. I lay there, in the rocks, not even bothering to get back up again. Why should I, when all it would mean is giving a chance for that lady to knock me down? Plus these rocks were surprisingly comfortable. I looked to the sky, which when you're lying flat on the ground is the most obvious thing to be looking at, right? It looks so dark and gloomy, like there's a storm coming in, and as another insanely strong gust of wind blows in my direction, I can't help but think that one. Hallelujah, I am not standing up, and secondly, when it is going to be over. I just wanted a night of dreamless sleep, minus weird ladies throwing ultimatums at me. I had no doubt I had made the right decision. Life without my friends wouldn't be the same. Why have the fake alternative when you can have the real deal? As the gust of wind calms down, I feel somebody staring at me. Knowing that it would be this lady, I sit up to face her. I see the outline of her form, the way she looks, a young woman. Beautiful, and yet at the same time she still looks translucent. She walks towards me slowly as if she has all the time in the world, which I suppose she does. She sits beside me, staring into my eyes intently, and I stare back, mesmerized. In her eyes I can see the wind swirling around. She has gray eyes, but different shades of gray. Dark gray and light gray infused into the ball and the iris of her eye. Different emotions. She cups my jaw in her hands, her talon-like nails digging into my cheeks, and states, "You know not the pain that befalls you in your lifetime. Happiness is very far away from you right now, and yet you choose the noble choice. You are strong, but the enemies against you are stronger, and you are only human, so for how long can you persist? You are my favorite, and so I shall bestow you with a gift. However, I am not so unkind to gift it to you without the warning that you have 100 days to find in this animal, if not this gift shall turn into a curse." Freeing my jaw, she picks up my wrist and, pulling up my t-shirt sleeve to examine it further, passes whatever criteria she has. Very slowly she brings her mouth to my wrist. Softly she places a kiss as a mother would to her sleeping child, but this kiss is not as innocent as that. Seconds after she removes her lips, I feel a burn inside me. It increases in intensity until I can't stop screaming. It's all I can feel. I scream until my voice is hoarse, and finally, with fire burning through my veins, I drift into the darkness of sleep. I came to, abruptly, not sure if this was reality that I was witnessing or still in the dream world. In which case I wanted to go back to sleep and, if need be, not wake up for a very long time. I let out a groan as my body wakes up and I can feel again. All that pain hits me like a sledgehammer. There was one place hurting worse than the rest. My wrist was still burning, as if my flesh had been soldered. "Anna." A voice I don't quite recognize murmurs to me, is all I can reply. Damon comes into my line of vision. I wasn't even aware that my eyes were open. The room was mainly dark with a faint light coming from somewhere. At least my eyes weren't being assaulted. "You okay? Now that you're awake, I'm going to call the healer and I'll check on Jack, but he should be asleep." Moments later I'm being bundled into strong arms that are not Jack's but are probably Damon's. "Can I ask you some advice, do you think? After all this is over, if I proposed to Layla, that she'd say yes?" Even in my pain-filled state, I know this is a major big deal, and already, just by him asking me this, was I filled with complete and utter joy for my friend. It was awesome how we could even make such plans with each other. Life beyond this prison, she'd be stupid not to. I smiled back up to him. "I'll trust you keep it a surprise," he asked, attempting to hide his smirk. "Of course." I beamed. We had arrived to wherever the healer was, and apparently Jack was here too, as I was being handed over to who I knew was most certainly Jack. Didn't Damon say that he was asleep? Or at least was supposed to be? I don't have time to think about it further, as I'm being settled onto my bed with the healer hovering nervously next to me, and Jack's heated stare boring holes into my side. "Where is it painful the most?" he asks, slowly unraveling a wound I apparently had on my leg. Didn't even feel that one, my wrist. I stayed as he checks other cuts right now. He didn't even have to ask me, as he knows more about my body than me. I had no idea about any of these injuries. Not that I'm complaining. The less pain the better. I had a feeling you'd say that. But none of us can touch it. It has a cloth wrapped around it, and I've made a salve that you can try to apply yourself. We don't know what the wound looks like, but we've got a flame on. If you need stitches, I'll be happy to do them for you whenever. I nodded, having no idea who could have put a cloth on it other than that crazy lady. I'm pulled out of my thoughts by Jack, who gently cupped my palm in his hands. I looked toward him, noticing a stark difference in him. I could tell he hadn't slept in a while, which made me wonder how long was I out for. "You want something to eat? I have chicken soup." And as he said that, I knew it wasn't a request. It was a demand, Jack style. I ate alone, my mind going over everything that had been going on last night, my brain replaying all the eventful things that had happened. I was glad Jack had gone to do whatever, maybe get me more food, but I rather hope not. This time was me time. I could really do with a shower right now, but know that I'm not in any physical state to have one. My cuts alone would make it pure agony. Thinking about cuts, I take a long look at my bandaged wrist before deciding that now would be a good time to attempt to change the dressing. I'm not sure when, but the searing pain from my wrist had died down to a slow but persistent burn. I'm not sure what kind of injury to expect while I carefully peel the bandage off, but there aren't any signs of blood. Always a positive thing. The more I unwrapped the bandage, the less pain I felt. At this revelation, I was practically ripping it off. It was more intricately done than I thought. When I see the wound for the first, my first reaction is complete numbness. I am so utterly flabbergasted that the only thing I can do is stare, and that is exactly how Jack and Warren find me. I'm lost in thought to the extent that I don't even hear them come into my room. Jack questions softly, kneeling down to my level, gently prying my hand off my wrist. I finally look into his eyes as he's about to lift my hand. I don't want him to, not yet. I shake my head no. I'm not even sure why I'm feeling this way. Sure, it's one hell of a shock, but nothing truly bad. I take in a huge breath and decide I'm being stupid. This was nothing so monumental that I had to freak out about. Truly, Jack was only going to worry more, really. I lift my hand away at the speed of lightning before I can have any more second thoughts. And I can immediately tell. Both Jack and Warren are as speechless as I. I didn't have any sort of scar wound or gaping pus-filled gash on my wrist. Nope. I had something infinitely more beautiful there. In all its fiery glory was a beautiful little phoenix on the bottom of my hand. Its wings wide as if in flight across my palm and the back of my hand. Its tail flowing gracefully down my arm. It was the only tattoo I had ever seen in person. So amazingly detailed it almost seemed alive. Well, that's definitely not what we were expecting, Warren states, snapping me out of my thoughts. He leaves the room. Jack is still silent, and now it's scaring me. Jack. I gently lift his chin, causing his eyes to look into mine. Instead of staring at the phoenix, the eyes are the window to the soul. I once read and never knew what it meant until now. As I looked into his eyes, I saw all sorts of emotions flashing through them. Me and Jack had been through many things together. I had seen many different things through his eyes, and yet, when I stared at those gray irises that I had come to love and take comfort in, I did not recognize the emotion staring back at me. I shuffle closer, my heart thudding dangerously fast in my chest, the sound resonating in my ears. I wait for him to say something, to do something, anything, but I had never seen him this still before. Demons were by nature not the calmest around. They were more on the restless, fidgety side. And yet here I had one of the most powerful demons in front of me, statue still. I need to know how much this was affecting him. How it was affecting him. What was he thinking? Has everything changed now? He stands abruptly, charging towards the door as if possessed. I don't know what to do, how to react. Do I give him space? Do I go after him? My heart hurts. And of all the pain I've ever felt, this is the worst. Give him a few minutes, I reason, then I can go in search of him. I don't even last a few minutes, I think I last one. I'm running to the demon wing as fast as I can, and right now I think I'm Superwoman, ignoring the protests my body is making. Something is wrong, I can feel it. Just as I reach Jack's room, I stop suddenly, afraid. I hear a loud crash and some words in what is probably Latin. But who knows, this is my cue. I barge in, rebelliously without knocking, to see chaos. Complete chaos. Jack, I exclaim, entering the room. It's too dangerous. He growls, and I then know his demon is very close to the surface. I ignore him, boldly walking up to him regardless. He stiffens as I hug his waist, leaning into his back. You don't understand, he grumbles, turning to face me. I do, and I don't care, I insist stubbornly. Anna. He picks me up as if I'm a doll and carries me to the bed. Jack was never this tall before. I decide to pay a little more attention to him. Not only was he tall, but he was also shirtless. I could feel the blush rising in my cheeks. Oh wow, how had I not noticed this before? I peek at his face. Is he paying attention to me? Thankfully no. But then I notice strange markings on his skin. Is he in his demon form? Not fully, he answers. I must have said that aloud. You did, he replies, chuckling at me. Jack. I squeak, snuggling into his chest before remembering he was shirtless, then proceeding to jerk away from him as if his touch burned me. Put something on, I demand hotly, my head in my hands. No, this was a great conundrum. We were both at a standstill, and despite his semi-naked form, I was glad that we had gotten through whatever had happened in my room. If only temporarily. Are you embarrassed, he asks. Chuckling, no, I insist stubbornly. Knowing that I was blushing furiously, yes. He countered as he gently pried my hands away from my face. You don't need to be, you know I know. I look at him, then properly look at him, taking in the markings across his skin. Was it script in some language? Was it just markings, or was it symbols? I found myself unconsciously leaning to trace my finger along them. No, he growled. Don't. Why not, I challenged, looking into his eyes. Just because, yeah. Like that was a good enough reason. I decided to drop it, as I know as well as anyone who knew Jack that he was as stubborn as a mule. Whatever one of those was, and right now wasn't the time to press such issues. Not when we had more than one ticking time bombs over our heads. With that in mind, I said, you need to hold another meeting, TR20. Later on that night, we were all back in the vampire wing. The meeting was to be held, but only with all the leaders of each wing. We were just waiting for Thad to get here. The only reason I had managed to persuade Jack to hold it was by leaving him in the dark completely, which was easier said than done. Now that they were all here in front of me, I suddenly grew nervous. I had no reason to be, as the people around me weren't strangers, but I felt like I was in the middle of something big, that after this there was no going back. But really, it's a little too late for that now. We've been planning to break out for a while. I shake off my unease and take a calming breath before I start. I can do this. You were right, Vlad. There is something up with the guards. I know this is going to sound weird, but hear me out. Turns out the guards have been brainwashed. I'm not sure by who, but someone very powerful. When they meet up, they were chanting to get pulled into some vortex. I guess then they were reporting to him that they've done something to the ships. We need to find them, I state, going off tangent. Whoever brainwashed them found out about me and tried to stop me from leaving. I'm not sure how I left, but one of the guards, Noel, helped me out. He confirmed that they had sabotaged the ships and their master didn't want us leave Aston. It was while I was leaving that I got most of the scratches and bruises. We need to get off this planet as soon as we can. I agree, Jack states, and he gives me a look that says, I know you have more to tell me. After breakfast tomorrow, we all meet in the werewolf wing. Then we split up, and the techs will inspect the ships we have, and the rest of us will split up to look for the others. We have 4 days left until our projected liftoff date. Do you all agree to push that forward to 3, and if possible 2 days? After a chores of eyes, Jack rattles off a few more orders regarding the roles of each group that needed to be completed. Things they already knew but were needed to be done faster. Due to the new departure date, we leave abruptly after, and if anyone thought it was weird that no one said anything, probably knowing they would be fruitless. Tell me everything, Jack demands as soon as Warren has closed the door. There's not much more to tell. After I had spoken to Noel, which I still don't know how that was possible, I woke up back here. Then I must have fallen asleep again, as I had a dream about this lady. She gave me a choice, and when I said no, she gave me this tattoo. I mean, I didn't know it was a tattoo, but yeah. She said I had 100 days to find this animal. I didn't even know phoenixes are real. I've heard of that before, but I thought it was legend. Clearly not. I think there are phoenixes on Earth. Warren mentions. I look to Jack, who's gone too silent again. The silence that means something more than he's not just listening. Warren seems to have made himself scarce after noticing the tension in the room. Jack, I'm sorry, what for? I question, confused. I'm supposed to protect you, and all you end up doing is getting more hurt. I'm taken aback by his outburst, but only momentarily. Before I start ranting, it was my choice to follow the guards a few nights ago. My choice to help discover this prophecy. It is not your fault that my dreams go a little crazy sometimes. It's not your fault for anything, Anna. Don't make excuses. I'm not making excuses, you are. Jack, this is not your fault. You've been awesome just sticking beside me and helping me recover from everything. You need to let me do things for me. These are my choices and my repercussions by now. We're standing eye to eye. He's looking down at me with such an intensity there aren't even words for. For once I can see all the emotions he normally keeps under wraps. In his eyes, the love, the insecurity, the anger. Everything. I can't help it. I close the gap between us, and the moment our lips connect, nothing else matters anymore. The only thing I can think of is Jack and how perfect this feels. Moments later we break apart. My lungs protesting due to the several minutes without air. No words are exchanged, but I feel like we're having a conversation just by looking at each other. Our eyes doing the talking. He pulls me into a hug and we stay like that for some time, just enjoying each other's presence. The comfort of a hug with someone you love filling us. All too soon does the illusion will have to break. We have to get back to reality. Due to the meeting tomorrow morning and the prep Jack wanted to do before that, we had a very early start. Morning arrived too soon. Excitement making sleep scarce in spite of my suddenly absent dreams. I could only watch as Jack made teams to go on the ship's scavenger hunt and gave each team sections to search. By the time it was breakfast, he had assigned everyone, including himself, a job. Everyone had an itinerary. For the next 2 days Jack had planned everything, including toilet breaks. Times like this reminded me of what a great leader he was. Fair too, we had toilet breaks in downtime. Despite the gravity of the situation, he saw how important it was to not overwork ourselves, to keep everyone on top form, to continue to put their needs first, and that made me love a little more. My team and I were on a mission. Actually, I think we all were. We had our objectives and we're now ready to fulfill them. Jack had given an amazingly inspiring speech at breakfast, which was probably why everyone was feeling so pumped. It was an exciting prospect. The hope for light at the end of an endless tunnel. Each team had 2 techs and an assortment of each race in each team, as every race had strengths and weaknesses. To balance each other out, my team and I were on our way to the dungeons, a previously unknown area of the prison. I didn't even know, but apparently the area down there is quite vast. But luckily I have Clark and Mick in my team, and more vampires as they have awesome night vision. As we descend into the dungeons on the most reliable looking ladder ever. Note the sarcasm, it was covered in rust and grime that I didn't even want to think where it came from. I know now why we all have gloves. It creaked as I made my way down. No one in my group had ever been down here before, which was about as reassuring as walking into a dragon cave unarmed. Totally not on my bucket list. Which really, if you think about it, is a stupid name. Why call it a bucket list? Where's the bucket? Humans are odd. Which I can say without being accused of racism. And to think, in some days humans used to define racism as different skin colors. Little did they know. I digress purely because the dungeon is not the happiest place to be on this world, and after having climbed down the ladder of death, we are plunged in complete darkness. Well, except for the manhole we came down. I fumble for my torch and flick the switch, the beam facing towards the floor. Never have I felt as claustrophobic as I do now. I take in a deep breath, steadying my nerves. No, this place is not going to swallow you whole. No, you will see the light again, yes. Everything will be okay. You are a part of a strong, capable team who will pull through whatever this godforsaken dungeon will throw at you. And anyways, you've been through so much so far. This is nothing in comparison. After giving myself a mini pep talk, I realize that everyone is waiting for me, and I take out the rough map Jack's drawn for us, which was so amazingly done that it was a box that says basement. Thanks, Jack, so helpful. Looks like we're going in blind. Do you want to split up? We'll meet up at this manhole. I was interrupted by a screeching sound from above. The manhole was closing. Made sense, really. Change of plan, we'll all go together. Can you tie this to the ladder somewhere visible? I hand my torch to one of the Fae, and we set off in the direction of forward. The vampires keep themselves furthest away from the beam of light. Night vision and bright light don't go together. We trudge in silence. Not sure what we're looking for exactly or how they got spaceship down here anyway, but we would investigate regardless. Every couple of meters one of the vampires would tie a fluorescent ribbon to make out our journey. But so far, after seeing nothing but chains hanging from the walls, we saw nothing. I had also instructed someone to attempt to draw a map from where we walking. Not that the map that Jack had given us could be beaten, but we could try. It didn't take long for us to get angsty and frustrated. The further we walked and the less we saw, the more our angst grew. It didn't help that none of us had been here before. So far I could only talk about myself. I'm getting increasingly scared of getting stuck down here forever. I sigh internally, pushing forward regardless. I know it'll be more gratifying to sigh aloud, but that would be too obvious. First rule of leadership is to act like everything's okay even when it's not. Fake it till you make it, or in this case, Act like you know where you're leading a group of your fellow inmates in an underground dungeon with no light and no idea where you're going until you either find where you're going or you find what you're looking for. Or you die here alone really slowly and painfully. Damn it, brain, you feel the need to do this to me. Why exactly did you see that, Anna? See what I question? Not noticing anything different in out surroundings. I feel someone take my torch off me as they shine the light ahead, but there in front of me is one of the ribbons that we've been using as markers. How is that even possible? Is everyone seeing this? I hear a few murmurs of agreement. I decide to consult the makeshift map, which doesn't really such me much. Stumped, I ask, any theories? Can I see the map? What if we walk around again, numbering each marker we've put to gauge how much of a distance it is? Then we can section the area off and split it between us, taking a look more closely to find any clues. One of the Fae suggested. Awesome suggestion. Let's do it. After numbering the marker in front of us, we trudge with 𝐿𝐤 lifted spirits through the same path again, finding that the distance we had walked, although it felt like a lot, was actually just a few meters. Surely, the basement of such a large prison would be bigger than this. Even if it was simply used as storage or a docking port for the spaceships, I'd imagine you'd need way more space than this. All in all, we had 3 sections to cover, so after equally dividing both members and supplies across the teams, I ensured that the skill set of the different species would remain equal throughout. We also created a short code of words that let everyone know if they had found anything or if there was any danger. Clark set up the stopwatch, as he was one of the few people who could actually see the numbers, and each team had 1 hour in each of their designated sections before switching. This was both for strategy and to keep our sanity. We worked in silence, our focus on the task at hand and getting the hell out of here ASAP. It was on our second switch that I noticed an anomaly. There were small etchings on a few bricks. Taking a closer look, I couldn't figure out if they were hieroglyphic style and were telling a story or if they were the alphabet of some language. I break formation to study the wall I had previously looked at again, just to see if I had missed any etchings. After checking my suspicions, I only find those etchings on the middle wall. And just to ensure I'm not deluding myself into thinking this was some kind of big discovery, I ask a few vampires to check if they recognize the language, eliminating the possibility that this was some poor prisoner's board etches. I was beginning to freak out a little. Nobody in our group could see the etchings but me. I had attempted to draw a few out, but every time I did, the lines became fuzzy and rearranged themselves. How that was possible, I do not know. Where was a magician when you needed one? I was a few seconds away from either banging my head against the damn wall or pulling my hair out. Everyone in my team had looked, double looked, and some had even felt the bricks I was pointing out to understand these symbols. We were huddled around the area with a few of the members giving me looks that clearly showed they were questioning my sanity. At this point I was too, until Mick said, "Wait, what if it's like what happened the other night, where we couldn't see how the guards disappeared?" But Anna, could that makes more sense. Since the guards are supposed to have hidden everything away, this would be the best way to hide it. Keep it humans only. Narrow the chance of finding it right down. The relief that surged through me then was unreal. Like finally something that made sense, and didn't make me feel like I was going crazy. I turned towards the bricks with renewed determination, examining each one carefully to see if there were any clues as to what I should do, or where they would lead. Were they supposed to be like a treasure map and point me to somewhere? Or were they a code? Or did I have to push to activate a ladder or open a door? The possibilities were numerous. I have to look at this logically. All in all, there are 5 bricks with etchings on them, and as this is the only wall with these bricks, I can presume that this wall would activate something. Or I would hope mainly. It's the hoping that I've got going for me now. Tentatively, I pressed down on one brick, testing if anything would happen. To my great surprise, the brick illuminated and blinked once, twice before going back to normal. I guess I would be trying out my code theory. I press another, the thought having just struck me that if I was to do this wrong, it could potentially mean disastrous consequences for all of us. This could be a trap, which really was what I needed at this moment. More pressure being put on me. The brick flashed 3 times. Maybe if I tried all the bricks, kept a note how many times each brick blinked, then I could press them all in order. I didn't bother asking if anyone could see what I was doing, or if they had any suggestions, as I knew they wouldn't be able to see anything. I was more than thankful that right now they were letting me do my own thing. Once I had noted it down, I tried out my theory, and to my dismay it didn't work. What else could the flashes of light mean for each brick? If not chronological order, Normally it would be the guards that will be opening this gateway. If it was a gateway, how would they do it well? First things first, there wouldn't be just one guard down here. How many guards were there? If my memory served me well, which normally it didn't, there would be at least 5. I don't remember how many I saw leaving entering the portal that night, but it was more than 5 for sure. I wonder if any more have been gifted like Noelle had since then. So, wouldn't whoever's behind this need a minimum of guards to take care of business? That's it. What if the bricks and flashes of light represent one person? That way, there would only be 5 people going into where the spaceships may be. The less people who know, the better, right? Just in case someone has a change of heart. Or if they were gifted, guys. Can you just hold on to these bricks for a second? On my count, just push it like a button. They didn't question me. Instead, they readied themselves and awaited my command. I picked up a few last-minute supplies and faced my brick. 1, 2, 3, we all pushed. A deep rumbling sound came from the other side of the chamber. It grew louder and louder, until it was so deafening I couldn't even hear myself think. Just as I thought it couldn't get any louder, any worse, it grew to a crescendo, shrill and piercing. The others were having a hard time holding on. This was affecting them so much more than it was me. With one final inhumane shriek and a flash of blinding light, we toppled into darkness. Turn 21, I landed on the ground with a thud. Or at least I thought I had. When I hear the small oof from my surroundings, I realize I'm on one of my unfortunate team members and scramble off them quickly. I switch in on the torch, examining our surroundings, while everyone gathers their bearings. There is absolutely no indication of where to go from here. We'd landed in a small cave-like room with very few options. I shined the light at ceiling, finding no evidence that we had ever fallen into the room. Panic rose inside me. What if we couldn't find our way out? No. I admonished myself. I can't allow myself to think like that. There is always an option. I take a few steps forward and feel the walls around me shift to accommodate. I really hope that this is not going to be like that room again. I don't think I could squeeze myself out of a hex again. Everybody huddle closer. I don't want anyone to get hurt, I say quietly, but echoes of my voice boom across the cave, ricocheting as if it was a bullet. It gave me hope that this cave was bigger than it looked. More confident now, I take longer strides. The others are quick to match my pace. We reach the end of the tunnel faster than I'd thought we would. Not that I'm complaining, having a wall moving around you where you had no idea where you are. Several feet underground was not a particularly enjoyable experience. I feel the change in the air around us as soon as we leave that cave. It's still dark, but the air feels cooler. Easier to breathe and see anything, guys. I can't tell. Seems like everything's jumbled up. I move the light of my torch ahead, skimming it over in every direction, trying to discern what was in front of me. I'd love to say that there in front of us in all its glory were the spaceships, preferably with arrows pointing exactly where they had been tampered with. Alas, this was not to be the case. So far, had anything been that easy? No, and things weren't about to start now. I wasn't sure of what I was looking at exactly, but none of it made sense, and it certainly wasn't the shuttles I was hoping for. With an irritated sigh, I trudged further into the cavern. Can we at least get some lights in here? All of a sudden, the cavern flooded with light. Bright retina, blinding light. I heard the sharp inhales and whimpers from my teammates behind me. We were taken completely off guard, and if my human eyes were in so much pain, then imagine having super sight. Thankfully, the light dulled after a few minutes, leaving us with a tolerable glow, but the scene in front of us was odd to say the least. Directly in front of me was a door. It looked a little small, but as it was so far away, who knows if it was the distance making it look small. Separating us from that door was a red desert. I didn't even want to know what we could be facing in this desert. Everything will be fine. This walk in the desert will be fine dandy, even like a walk in the park without the park, or the grass, or the sun, or anything really. It doesn't look like anything could hurt us, but I don't trust it. Even if it does look like a desert, but it's our only choice unless you have any ideas. I was met with agreeing nods and solemn faces. I could tell that they were thinking the same thing as me. This was surely not going to be as easy as it looked. We started off slowly, taking small steps cautiously, but after walking a little with nothing happened to us and we started taking longer strides. Walking more confidently. The light never dimmed from its brightness. It was neither hot or cold here, which I was thankful for. What's that saying where if things are going amazingly well then you're probably missing something? If it's too good to be true then it probably is. Well, that was our present situation. We had become overconfident and subsequently my heart dropped to the ground when I heard the shriek or my fellow comrade. We'd been walking single file across the landscape. Until now I turned to the sound. Just in time to see the last member of the team being sucked into the ground. Oh no, and even that was a great understatement. How did that happen? I questioned frantically, knowing deep down that they wouldn't know either. The expressions on their face tell me this. Completely confused and ashen. Mine was probably showing the same. I didn't want to think about what had happened to her, of where she had ended up, but I hope she's okay. A gust of wind zaps me back into the reality of our situation. We have just lost one of our crew members. We cannot afford to lose another. Dawdling would not help the situation or us. We pick up our pace from a leisurely stroll through the desert to a light jog. Where did the gust of wind even come from? The last time I checked we were deep underground, in a cavern in a desert, and seemingly, we were able to get sucked even more underground, somehow by mysterious vacuums in the desert floor, taking us to Lord knows where. Honestly, my head was hurting just thinking about how deep we were in this. Just as things were getting ever so slightly better, the ground had to go and open up and suck people up. I sighed before pushing myself to go faster. This desert was unpredictable, and the last thing I wanted is for someone to get sucked up again. I find myself falling face first, only to be steadied by the help of one of my crew holding me in place. I looked down to the culprit. My laces were undone, even though I'm sure they had been tied securely. We fall a few steps behind the others. No point in slowing others down from my own clumsiness. As I finish tying my laces, even checking my other foot, I see it all in slow motion. Time seems to have stilled as I can only stare at the events unfurling before me. In complete horror, slowly, mockingly slow, I see particles of sand disappearing, almost snake-like in their actions, until they reaches my comrade's feet. Too slow. I shout something in warning, my voice strangled, knowing that I'm too late as I see their feet being sucked by an unknown force into the sand. They turn to face me and I see the exact moment they register what was happening. The shock in their faces quickly replaced by panic. Fear I would never forget. It was over in a matter of seconds. It took mere seconds for my two comrades to be separated from us, swept from under our feet literally. I wipe a rogue tear away before getting up, after sharing a look which conveyed our feelings better than any words could, and with my remaining crew we trudge on in silence. We were past any words now, wanting to get this over and done with. Fatigue washed over me. I was both mentally and physically exhausted. I had had enough of this and just wanted off of this planet. Already nobody said that this would be easy. Small miracles do exist. I realize as I glance towards the door. It's a lot closer now. I can't wait to get out of this desert. Even more, I can't wait to get back above ground. I wonder how long it would have taken the guards to get through this. Or is this treatment reserved for just us, the lucky ones? Not to mention we haven't had any sign of the spaceships yet, which is the very reason we're down here. Hopefully we could find them soon, end our mission, then get the hell out of here, which, even though I make it sound easy, I know it'll be anything but. If the journey here is any indication, I have no idea how long we've been down here for, and if I didn't have bigger concerns right now, like surviving, I would most definitely be very concerned about not knowing how long we've been here for, and how we were going to get out. But those are pretty minor things. Nothing too concerning. With a glance at my remaining comrade, I grip the wooden handle and push, trying not to consider all the things that could go wrong whilst opening this door. Please let this be the final hurdle. Please let us find the damn ships, I plead. Not exactly having a specific person I'm pleading to. Regardless, I step through the doorway to pitch black. The only way I can tell that Clark is with me is because I hear the door shut and a few hesitant steps taken toward me. Do you see anything? I ask, whispering yup. Just in case this room was full of mutant bats that would be able to detect us if we talk too loud. Or aliens. Or who knows, right now nothing seems improbable. which can be derived from the evidence of everything that's happened so far. A little. But it would be great if we could have some light. I'm having trouble seeing where one object starts and the other ends. It all looks like a big mishmash. I feel my belt for my torch. I flick the switch. No mutant bats. Seeing nothing in front of us for a while, I turn to see confused. Looking more carefully at our immediate surroundings, I notice we have to walk across some sort of bridge. Great, no margin for error here then. We cross the bridge first. Then look for some source of light and explore our surroundings properly. I can see ahead that there is something to explore. I'm just not sure what it is. Well, here goes. I murmur something in agreement and begin a slow but steady pace across the bridge. My beam of light never wavering from in front of me. No need for me to look down. Once I'm halfway across, I feel the dip in weight as Clark gets on the bridge too. And I notch up my pace from snail to tortoise in an attempt to ensure that the bridge doesn't buckle under our weight. Nope. No need to start thinking about falling to your death. Not while you're on a bridge anyway. I hear a creak. And take a deep breath. Nothing to worry about. Technically, I shouldn't even be afraid of heights. Right? I mean, I'm on a different planet which is pretty high away from Earth, right? Okay, I'll admit that was lame. I take a few more steps, then I hear it. The unmistakable groaning of the bridge. I freeze on the spot to the severity where I'm too scared to breathe. Moments pass where I stay stock still, too afraid to move. This is ridiculous. I chide myself. You really have to keep moving. Standing still never got anyone anywhere in life. Tentatively, I take a step forward and then another and another, until I'm almost power walking across, terrified that the bridge will give way and will be falling in the pit of the unknown, into depths I don't even want to think about. It feels like I've been crossing it for a while now, the never-ending bridge. I can't even hear Clark's footsteps anymore. I'm slowly losing hope of ever crossing when I see the end of the bridge in sight and heave a sigh in relief. I stand and wait, never straying away from the bridge for very long. I'm tiring of waiting already, even though my journey across the bridge felt like it took an eternity, and he started later than I did. I continue to look around my immediate surroundings in an attempt to find something of use to us, like light, or the spaceships that we need to get off this plane. I hear footsteps behind me and turn to face them. Clark, I question, not seeing anyone behind me. That is the oddest thing. I decide to leave him directions. To whichever way I'm going, I really don't want to be down here any longer. I start walking straight ahead, my beam of light flicking here and looking for clues. I found nothing. Zilch. Completely barren land as I walked ahead. The floor dry, hard and cracked. Was this like the desert? Nope. Another desert is not what I need. I keep expecting to see footsteps behind me, not wanting to believe what my mind knows to be true. I hear a scuttle coming from my right. Some sort of insect, maybe. I swing my torch around, attempting to locate the bug. The scratchy sound growing louder by the second. I finally find the black beetle scurrying to someplace ahead. Curious, I follow it. Is it even a beetle? I have no idea. But it's a form of bug, and that was enough for me. I follow the bug like my life depends on it, and maybe it does. Who knows? Not like I had anything better to do here. Not like I had anyone else to come with me on this journey, other than this bug, which I'm sure was a great conversationalist. Not that I would be willing to risk my sanity for one. I try not to listen to my body's urges, how tired I was feeling, the rumble of my stomach and the need for water. This was fun, wasn't it? Following a beetle-like creature in the middle of some underground desert Sahara hybrid. Totally what I expected to do today. Just then, I see another beetle. Double-checking that I won't be adding hallucinations to the list of things that are wrong right now. There are definitely two. Things are getting interesting. What are the chances that there are two beetles in this desert with me? Going the same way I follow religiously. Not that they would be able to escape my scrutinizing gaze in this barren land easily. I hear more scuttling but can't see any more beetles around. Odd. Regardless, I walk towards the ever-increasing sound, the same direction the beetles were headed. Do insects have conventions all of a sudden? I see many more beetles scuttling towards the same direction, coming from everywhere. Should I be scared right now? I quicken my pace as it seems the insects do the same. Even more frantic than before, I'm power walking. The beetles have covered the floor to such an extent that the floor is all black. I'm finding it difficult to not step on some poor unsuspecting insect. I didn't think it possible, but the beetles had grown in number. They were all over each other, clambering in an attempt to reach their destination. I nearly missed it in the sheer volume of insects now. They were all climbing into a box which looked endless in its ability to cater to all of them. Tentatively, I walked towards the box, not exactly too excited about the prospect of looking into this box with its superpower as an endless pit. The lid was slightly open, slick with something that looked like grime but felt like sludge. Regardless, I yanked the lid up with all my might, holding in my breath at what to anticipate. I see a black endless pit, complete nothingness. I look for clues on the lid only to be greeted by grime. What to do? Fall into nothingness with faith as my only companion? Or stay in this endless desert with no clear way out? What did I have to lose? I bring my hand forward, into the middle of the box, just to test the waters and feel the undeniable pull to come inside. Could this be a vortex? Throwing caution to the wind and wanting so badly to say what's the worst that can happen, but stopping myself in case things do get worse. I allow myself to get tugged into this dark void. Black, darker than the night sky, so dark. My pupils are freaking out from the sensory deprivation. I shut my eyes and take in slow, deep breeze. The wind whooshes through my hair, and that's the only indication I have that I'm moving, or falling, or whatever's happening right now. I land with a thud and don't attempt to move for a while. I don't want to break this moment of peace by opening my eyes and facing a possibly unfortunate reality. The temptation to fall asleep and deal with whatever my new reality is later is almost too hard to resist. But then I remember that I have no idea how long I've been down here for, and maybe it would be a good idea to get up, even if it is just so that I can be reunited with my bed. Do you think she hit her head? That wakes me up. I jolt out of my position, completely dumbfounded at the fact that my comrades were surrounding me with worried expression. Me, when they were the ones who were sucked into sand or had fallen off a bridge. Thinking about it makes my head throb violently. Everything that has just happened, it doesn't even feel real. Like a nightmare. Guys, how is this even possible? I exclaim as I greet each of them, giddy that they were okay. We don't know either. We just woke up here like you did, Clark explains. Look, we found the spaceships. This was amazingly good news. Almost seemed too good to be true, but after trekking through the desert, the bridge and all those insects, I am more than willing to take this piece of good news and not question it. I scrambled to my feet, eagerly walking in the direction Clark was showing me. There in all their glory stood the objects that we had come all this way for. I wasted no time in beginning to inspect the ships, and the others followed suit. Not entirely sure what I was looking for, I decided to split the search into 3 sections: inner, outer, and electrics. After sharing my plans with the others, we created a swap and seek system just like we had used in the dungeon. Another assurance that we would find what we're looking for. We work silently, all of us tired from our previous trials. The point which I'm currently at is holding on to the torch of hope for a little longer despite my aching arms, as I can see the end of the tunnel. Now I heave a sigh, using it to center myself, attempting to not give in to my fatigue or the dizziness washing over me. Push myself on, consoling myself with images of my duvet and imagining being all wrapped up in bed. I hear a shout just as I'm getting a little too comfy in my reverie, coming from the last ship. I quickly make my way towards the group who are all huddled around. You found something. Everyone pulls apart a little so that I could see into too. It's this extra wire leading to this oblong box, which we've managed to loosen a little, but none of us know what to do or how to get it out. The Fae who found the box answers. If we look for a way out, we could bring the text down here to take a look, I suggest, hoping that they would have to go through what we did to get to the ships. We split up again looking for the exit, until Clark notices a panel stuck to the wall. I make my way toward him whilst he dislodges the cover. There's no writing, he exclaims, and instead of asking what he's talking about, I quicken my pace to see for myself. I stare at the box. It has rows of buttons, all with writing beside them and a light, indicating if it's enabled or not, I presume. Maybe it's just a human thing skimming the list. I see the button needed for exit, which I immediately press. A deep rumbling starts from the far right corner of the room, as we all watch in awe as a spiral staircase slowly comes up from the ground. A few intriguing lights are switched on to oxygen, which was one that we obviously needed, was understandable. But what about dreamscape? Was that what our trials were, dreams? I pressed the button regardless. And a few others too. Emotions sounded particularly daunting. I didn't want to think about the individual behind this and their screwed mindset. My crew had decided not to bother to wait for me. As soon as the staircase had fully grown out of the ground, like an overachieving beanstalk, they had began to climb up, all the while shouting at me for being too slow. I don't know where I got the energy from, but I found myself running up the stairs 2 at a time. Ecstatic that I was finally getting out here and of course that much closer to be reunited with my bed. Tar 22. We had a bit of a welcoming committee which I steadfastly ignored and made a beeline for my bedroom instead. After changing into a large shirt, I pulled back my duvet and snuggled in, shutting the world out. My peaceful sleep was disturbed by a painful scream and shouting. Lots of shouting. What on earth's sun was going on? I shot up, instantly awake, my mind racing to all sorts of conclusions. What could possibly be happening now? Were the guards onto our escape plans? How did they find out? I hadn't even seen a guard around since they had their weird intervention. Okay, calm down. Overthinking gets you nowhere but scaredville. And you are most definitely not afraid of anything. I walk out into the hall trying to discern where the shouting is coming from. But as I follow it, the voices only get quieter. Aren't they supposed to get louder instead? Am I going the right way? I reach a dead-end corridor, the voices having disappeared into nothingness. Despite the dead end, something urges me down the corridor. Call it instinct, call it stupidity. I went regardless to the end locker. It creaked open as I neared it, a surefire sign that this probably wasn't a good idea. Be careful, I heard shouts again. So scooping up the note and stuffing it into my back pocket, I ran toward the sound of their voices. They were in the room in front of me, and even though I couldn't see anyone through the glass panes, my instinct told me not to go in there. I stood beside the door listening in, wondering who was in the room. Does she have any idea how important she is? Any idea of the prophecy a man's voice demands? Sounding vaguely familiar, none at all. She knows nothing, the other says, pleading almost. I swear I've heard these people before. If only I could sneak a peek at their faces. That would help for sure. Good. If she does not know of the prophecy, she will not know about her choice. This is going along most excellently, the man states. Cackling okay. So I can gather that they're talking about me. The prophecy is about me after all. But I still don't even know what the prophecy is. What was I supposed to do? What was it even about? Confused now more than ever. I realize in the nick of time that there are footsteps getting louder, moving toward the door. Without stopping to think, I run into the nearest corridor, unsure of where I'm going but not wanting to get caught. Knowing I'm out of sight now, I attempt to gather my bearings. Technically, this is supposed to be the demon wing. I wonder if I can find Jack. I search the entire wing to no avail. The rooms are barren of life and any signs that there were ever people living here, that is until I get into the last room where I see painted on the walls, "You must choose soon." Choose what exactly? My heart quickens on seeing this. Questions cloud my mind. I want nothing more to wake up for this to be over. Panicked, I flee the room, running to distance myself from there. I run in any direction that can take me away, far away, endlessly through rooms and corridors with no sense of direction or purpose other than away. Away from here. Stop, I tell myself. When I'm panting and sweaty, this is ridiculous. What am I running from? Words on a wall, how stupid. It didn't feel like that. It felt different, like I was running from something more than what written down. It felt like I was running away from everyone and everything. All my responsibilities. Things I was expected to do and know but had no clue about. I take a deep breath, forcing myself to calm down and be rational. I have no need to panic from some message that didn't even threaten me. Okay, I have to choose. I may have no idea what I'm choosing, or what the hell is going on, but I can do this. I just need time. I can figure this out. I mean, nobody really said when the prophecy had to be fulfilled by, right? No deadline, no time frame. That was cool. That was what I needed. With a decidedly clear mind now, I begin looking for a way back to my room, planning to write down all the information I've got so far in an attempt to figure this thing out. I was so focused on my next move that only seconds after I make the pledge to look for information, I bump into someone who, seeming wholly unperturbed by my colliding into them, continued onwards without a word. I swear I didn't even see their face. Looking back at the quickly retreating figure in order to apologize, I realize they have left something on the ground. Upon closer inspection, I find a note. I look up, try to find any sign of where the person had gone. Odd, I open up the note. The words filling me with dread: your time is running short. The prophecy must be fulfilled tomorrow. Well, at least I had till tomorrow, right? But is that the question I should be asking? It's more than a little weird these hints are popping up. Are they here to help me or hinder me? Anna. Somebody calls. I try in vain to follow the sound of their voice, but can't find them. Anna again with this. I look around again. Wait, Felix. What was he doing here? I stride purposely toward him, needing any help that I can get. As I get closer to him, he disappears. I'm definitely dreaming. Everything is too crazy. Where could he have gone? Remember what I told you? I hear his voice whispering in my ear, as if he was actually standing right beside me. With a jolt, I sit up in my bed. What is going on? Slumping back onto the comfort of my pillow, I realize two things. One, that for a dream that felt ridiculously real, and secondly, that Jack wasn't here beside me, which meant he was still probably doing stuff that needed to be done. What time is it? I need to get up. As quickly as my frazzled brain lets me, I get myself into the shower in an attempt to relax and wake up. No such luck. My mind is still reeling over that bizarre dream. I'm sure sleep is supposed to be a respite. Standing under the warm spray, I find myself slowly letting everything go. The tension in my muscles easing, my mind calming. This is nice. When I feel like I can face the world again, I leave the soothing shower and get myself ready to leave. It is only after I leave my room that I see the full effect of what's been going on since I've been asleep. Carnage, everything is everywhere. Clearly Jack called for no more secrets, which means who know where the hell the guards have gone. But they weren't here. It seemed like everyone was busy doing something, which made me feel a little guilty for sleeping these past few hours. I tried to find Jack amongst everyone to no avail. As I was about to ask for his whereabouts, I see him in the corner talking to someone. Instead of disturbing him, I go to the kitchen to find food. After only filling up a plate for myself, I remember that Jack probably won't have eaten either. Being the sacrificial guy he was, he probably gave everyone else time to eat and rest, but none for himself. Typical Jack. I fill a big bowl of chili and make my way to where he's standing. I don't even get to surprise him as he turns around and pulls me into a hug, resting his head in the crook of my neck. We stay like this for a while, and yes, I love his hugs and it's good to be here for him, but I'm more than proud of myself that I can do all this and not drop any of the chili. Whilst he was hugging me, I was planning. With Thad's help, he understood my frantic, one-handed gestures to get a chair and place it directly behind Jack. So once Jack had finished hugging me, I gently pushed him into the chair and promptly sat on his lap. He wasn't going anywhere. What's all this? You haven't eaten, have you? I ask, eyebrow arched, waiting for him to lie about it. You're right, he says, running a hand through his hair. I was waiting for you now. How can I be mad at him for that? You don't have to wait any longer, I state, and feed him a spoonful of chili. We sit undisturbed amongst the chaos, feeding each other as if we aren't in the middle of planning to escape a prison. I snuggled into his chest, setting down the bowl. Fully sated, what do you need to do now? Not much actually. The techs should have finished repairing the ships and they should be filled with provisions. There are 5 ships going, 2 tonight and 3 tomorrow. That way we'll have a team on the ground already. It's everyone who's been on Earth before, so know their way around a little. That way we won't be going in blind tomorrow, and can hopefully do this all undetected by the royals. Each ship will have 10 of us in it. We'll be watching the first 2 from here, and each ship has a tracking system so that it can keep an eye on the other ships too. Come on. We've had our rest, now let's see if they've been moved into position. Takeoff is in less than an hour. As soon as Jack gets up, he's being called by someone and walks toward them, but I decide not to follow and make myself useful in other ways. I end up helping the Fae pack medical supplies, food, anything that we thought would be needed, and a little extra just in case. It dawned on me that this was finally happening now. We were finally getting off this planet. The moment we step onto that rocket, nothing would ever be the same. Once I had helped them, I noticed some of the techs arguing over something. As I came closer, I noticed frantic scribblings on a chalkboard. Can I help? I asked, nearing the group. Yes. Can you help us figure out how to allocate all the passengers without overboarding the ship? We're a few overshore. How much people does each ship have the capacity for? 10 to 11 people each. We have 5 ships. And 5-6 people, so one ship will be filled beyond capacity, but the question is which ship should we put the extra passenger in? I ponder over their dilemma and consider the weight and height of the passengers. The text told me that each ship had a quota of different species that I had to fill, so that if anything were to happen, everyone's different skill sets would come in handy. That narrowed possibilities considerably. It meant that I had less of a leeway to shuffle people around. After much discussion, we decided to leave the extra passenger for the last ship, running the decision by Jack just in case. I hadn't noticed, but everyone had gone to sleep now. So after bidding the text good night and telling them to get some sleep, I head towards my room, where I hoped Jack was. I stifle a yawn as I crawl into bed with him. Tired from the day's events. Remember what I told you? I had forgotten, damn it. I racked my brains trying to remember what he told me. It was something weird and obscure, that's for sure. As I try to recall what exactly happened the day that I met him, just in case he dropped some hints, I am struck by an epiphany. Maybe I could look at the dreams I've been having to see if they can help me figure out what I'm supposed to do. So, there was the one with the weird family that tried to make me inadvertently kill myself, but that was in order to stop me finding the prophecy. There was the one with the pixie that led me to the hexed room with that legend in it. Another one when I was laying in a field of red grass. Another where I met the lady who gave me a choice but then proceeded to be angry with said choice and gave me an unwanted but very beautiful curse. Another with the mom and dad in a room crying. Wow. I have a lot of dreams, don't I? More than I could count now. To filter out the unrelated ones from those regarding the prophecy. Even though I don't know what the prophecy is per se, anything that seemed related should be considered, I guess. It was most definitely very odd how whenever I got close to finding out the prophecy on Aston, something always seemed to happen. The library burnt down. My body suddenly decided it didn't want to work anymore. All when I was looking for more information about that. I get it, suddenly it all makes sense now. Like a jigsaw puzzle in my head. I now understand everything. Well, okay, not everything, but more than I did before. I want to do a little happy dance to celebrate my success, and am promptly reminded of my surroundings when Jack swings one of his arms around me. The last thing I wanted to do was wake him up. I find myself drifting towards the realm of the unconscious, despite being too pumped to sleep. Instead of fighting it, I embrace the sleep despite the apprehension of having no idea how things are going to go down tomorrow. I am shaken awake from a dream that I couldn't get out of. While it's a welcome distraction, I don't want to face the music just yet. My dream did help me figure a few things out, but mostly it gave me no real sleep. I rubbed the exhaustion out of my eyes, determined to hit the ground running. Today was the most important day of my life, and things could go very awry if I messed up, which happened to me more often than I'd like to admit. I eat a quick breakfast of porridge. Find Jack, who conveniently created a checklist of things that needed to be done today. It was such a shame that this checklist was also in his head, so nobody else could help him. So I stood by him as he went through this checklist, helping him wherever I could. If he found my persistent shadowing of him borderline stalkerish behavior, he didn't say anything honestly. Even I don't know why I was acting so clingy today. The day slips through our fingers. Where the time goes is a mystery, but we've already seen off 2 successful takeoffs and ours is the 3rd. The prison is like a ghost town. There are only a handful of people here, just the 11 of us. Wait, 11? I've been so busy. I had forgotten about being one passenger overboard on our ship, and now it was too late to shuffle passengers around as 2 ships had already left. What to do? I was most definitely not about to rain on Jack's parade. Not after he was practically walking on air. As to how well everything was playing out, nope, I'd have to sort it myself one way or another. I don't have much time to ponder as I'm charged with the task of loading our ship, while others perform final checks. One last body count and then douse the entire complex in oil. It was actually Vlad's idea to burn this place to the ground. That way it could never be used again and nobody would have to go through what we did. But that's moot point. I was so lost in my thoughts that I stumble on one of the pegs holding the ship down. An idea works in my mind as I walk round the back and loosen the ropes for 3 of the pegs. We were loading onto the ship, ambling as if we weren't about to go on a trip to Earth that could potentially end in disaster. I made sure to linger at the end, but Jack, ever watchful, was dragging me along with him. I needed a distraction to knock the last 2 pegs down. Thankfully, one of the techs gave me one. Before urging him to go see what she needed, I brought my mouth to his and kissed him with everything I had. This was my goodbye, but he didn't know that not yet. "Don't worry, we'll be fine," he smiles down at me, dismissing the kiss as nerves I know. I smile back up at him, my heart breaking at leaving him. I'm desperately trying not to cry and make my smile wider, masking my nerves now go. I dismiss him, needing him to get on that ship. He began walking away from me. I need to act fast. Faster than fast. Jack was a supernatural being that could stop this at any moment. It has to happen before he even realizes now. If memory serves me correctly, and it's never done before, but this could be the start of something new. There should be a button that will secure the exits and start liftoff. But was that button outside or inside? Or was it that one near the entrance? I unhook one of the ropes and loosen the other. Jack's calling my name by now as they're all waiting on me. You'd think as supernatural beings one of them would notice that they're not supposed to be floating yet. There was no need to untie the ropes. That would have happened itself. "I'm coming. Don't worry," I call out as I walk towards the entrance. I don't enter, but instead act like I'm finding my footing. My hand on the door frame. My hand fumbles across the ledge. Ugh. Please don't tell me I have the wrong side of the nope. I found it. I press the button and jump out of the way as immediately the door whooshes shut behind me. I can see Jack's face fill with horror as he realizes what's just happened. His face pressed up against the window. His eyes a flurry of emotions. Emergency launch. In 10, I bring my face right beside his. Tears freely flowing down my face. He's still in shock. I bring my hands to his face as if I would be touching it. "I love you." That does it? No, he shakes his head. No, he roars. His eyes inky black, his voice crackling. 7-6. It has to be this way, Jack. "I love you." This calms him somewhat. He places his hand on the glass just over mine and we stare into each other's eyes. I'm trying to tell him things will work out. Everything will be okay. I smile at him. 4-3. I move away from the ship as I hear the engines fire up a second time. The rumble shaking the ground. The countdown reaches 1 and Jack moves finally. "I love you," he says. Not that I can hear this from the sound the engines are making. I read his lips. I hold up my hands, forming a heart towards the sky. And as he lifts off this wretched planet, he stares out the window doing the same. I stay standing, rooted to the spot until they're nothing but a blip in the night sky. I look around my surroundings, or what remains of it anyway. The fire has engulfed most of the prison and will soon come for me too. Oddly, I'm not worried. I knew this would happen. A sense of fatigue washes over me as I sit watching the flames slowly surround me. I think back to the King's legend and wonder if I've passed the test. I find myself lying on the ground drifting to sleep. The red grass moving all around me but never coming too close. My final thought being maybe I can go home now.